What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the sun in Scorpio in the 7th house. I was like, look at the sun forming relationships. Now, when you talk about the sun, the the sun is the higher light of the mind. This is the that divine intelligence. This is where we connect with that source, with that angel, whatever that is that you, however you conceptualize that higher force. That's that sun energy, the thing that fuels the body, that helps us to, that motivates us. It's the thing that gets us out of bed each day, the thing that drives us, the thing that we feel called to do. That's sun energy. And it can bring this sense of leadership and authority and whatever it is that you're meant to do on this journey. So the sun is a very, very pivotal point in the chart. And then you talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, and they are the fixed water sign, and they are receptive or yin in nature. And there's a lot of power with Scorpio having that martial influence. Scorpio has the way of, one, they have a very deep intuition, a very strong sense, a very, very perceptive. Scorpio can sense when things don't feel off. They can sense the vibrations and the energies that are around them. Because when you think about the water energy, that's the emotions, that's the feeling. In Scorpio, unlike, where Cancer is kind of, oscillating between, waxing between the tides, and Pisces is just submerged in the sea. Scorpio carries that water with it, and it comes in the forms of this kind of more concentrated water. And it's both, it can be, and that's how emotions can be. They can be both a toxin when they're not dealt with, but they can also, when dealt with, they can be a medicine. And so there's a powerful transformative energy. Scorpio knows how to, they feel things at a depth that others can't, and they can hold those energies and change that into really beautiful things. I think that Scorpio has a very strong healing, very strong loving nature that they can have opposed to them. But it's only a matter, because it's like if you well, we'll get into that here in a moment. But yeah, I think that Scorpio is one that just, yeah, they're very, very strong, compassionate sign, I think, as well. But let's get into the seventh house, because the seventh house in traditional astrology was known as the setting house, and this is where the descendant lives. This is the point that's opposite you. The ascendant, and this is one of the angular houses, so it's going to be a very strong house. When we're talking about the seventh, but some of the themes that it covers are going to be themes of like marriage. It can be partners. It can be other people, and it can be in just relationships in general. Living abroad can even be something that comes up in the seventh house as well. But when you're working with this placement, a couple of things to consider. You would have a Taurus rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Mars, because Mars is going to be responsible for this house and for your 12th house, which deals with like any sort of like sickness. This can be kind of like great illnesses. It could be enemies. It could deal with loss, confinement, things along those lines. And then the sun is going to be responsible for your 4th house, which deals with like your family, your parents, home, ancestors, your homeland, things along those lines. So that would be something where I would kind of explore right off the bat, because of course, with the sun being there, relationships are going to be a big factor in who you become. Meeting, and I would pay attention, and not just the ones that you enjoy. It's going to be the ones that, because the 7th house can even deal with like enemies. These are going to be just anyone that's opposite you. And so pay attention to what themes come up in your relationships, how you relate to one another, because again, Scorpio, I think, can really connect on a very, and what I would think, want to connect on a very deep level. Wouldn't want superficial relationships, but I would think just remember with 7th house things, that where you are here to learn from others, but there's no us if there's no you. So that's something I think to just kind of pay attention to with just being in a martial ruled sign, that's just something I would be tend to do. How you connect with others, making sure that there's that reciprocity and that there's this interdependence as opposed to like codependence and things along those lines. So yeah, just making sure that those themes may be kind of come into play there, and that might be something too where just thinking this could be. I would even, considering that the sun rules that fourth house, I would think about how you learned how to relate to people, and that's going to start with your parents. How did that whole relationship form? What did that look like? What were their sort of like, if you're kind of looking into like attachment styles, how you learned how they interacted with you. I think that's going to play a big factor, just considering that these are all happening. You got all these, especially if you got planets in the fourth, but these are going to, home is going to play a big factor into who, how you relate to others, maybe even what you want in a marriage, possibly. So that's going to be something where I would have a deep connection, at least a deep understanding there. I would say with just like I think everyone would benefit from therapy, but I think that especially seventh house placements benefit from that, especially maybe if you find yourself maybe finding, getting into like different cycles with relationships, or maybe there's something, again, maybe with that 12th house, maybe there are some themes around that may come up with, and it just inevitably happens in life where there will be themes of maybe loss, and how do you process that, and there may be some strong emotions around that, again, maybe even like a fear of maybe, because again, a Scorpio can feel, I think, it's a love that's really strong, I think, for probably the relationships that you form. So I think being able to you can have a healthy outlet to kind of process those themes. But I can even see too that this could be where maybe you find that you want to live, find a home abroad, or maybe even like entertain living abroad. I would say even too, if you have a relationship with your ancestors, with that sense of, maybe, understanding your lineage, if you happen to come from another country, see what that looks like. Maybe if you can go visit that place, see how you relate to the land, because then you may end up want to move there. Maybe you want to at least bring that culture into your relationships and things. So that might be something to consider. Then maybe you find your partner maybe living abroad. That might be another thing that maybe could potentially come up with this placement here. But and I think that is not just you just learning from relationships. You're gonna be teaching others, in relationships too. This could be where maybe with you having that kind of mix, that maybe you have where you can meet others to this depth, but then that Taurus, having that Taurus rising, maybe you can help ground other people as well. So it's gonna be a two-way street, of course. You're gonna help others as well in this. And so I would think about that. What do you bring in relationships? What does that look like? And how you show up, and do you how do you match people, kind of meeting them where they're at, and them meeting you where you're at, and understanding how relationships change over time, because that might be something too. Having Scorpio there, having that relationship on a fixed angle, we like consistency. You don't like when things change, but there are people change, you change, and so it's like that might be a theme too. It's like, how do you deal with those changes, deal with those kind of fluctuations? What is that's trying to teach you there? But yeah, that's a very, very interesting one that I would. Yeah, that's very interesting placement. That we're dealing with the sun here, but I think that it's too. I think it's going to be an area again where you could, really shine in how you form relationships, and pay attention to the type of relationships that come into your life. Those really kind of prominent ones and yeah, those really kind of like loyal friendships, really cherish those, and I think that sun can really shine there for sure. But you definitely need the whole chart to get an understanding for this placement. But if you have this placement, or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the comment section, let us know how this is manifested for you. How that's potentially looks like. And one thing, I should mention with this placement too, just because it's the house of marriage, it doesn't mean that you have to get married, but that may be something. If you are, like, that's good. Pay attention to how that relationship comes up, and how like, again, especially how Mars is maybe even aspected to the sun there. But who do you call family? That's going to be, I think, another, again, too, with that sun ruling that house, those themes flowing here. Who do you call, who do you want to be in your soul tribe? That's another, kind of thing that I'm just thinking about, just kind of came through there. But if that's something you want to explore this placement more, kind of get into this, or maybe you want to think about, maybe you want to see if there's any sort of, like, things coming up in relationships, or maybe you have your sun as a time lord for the year and you want to see what kind of transits are going to be more busy for you, or maybe you're in a seventh house perfection year, whatever that's looking like. But if that's something that you want to do, down in the description box, I have a price for one of the services, like just kind of my general astrology consultation that I provide. But if you have any questions about, far as like what that can include, and what you want to go over, definitely email me. I have, that's available for you, and usually get back to you pretty within a reasonable time. And what else? Also, on this channel, if you want to work with the lunar shenanigans, if you want to see how to work with the moon, because the sun's important, but so is the moon, and seeing what that moon does can be very helpful, especially in how you're relating with others. So I have in one of my playlists the lunar shenanigans tab, and that just goes over the lunar astrology and what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going for void of course, and what aspects that is forming each day, and just kind of like a temperature check for the week. It's a fun little series that I'm kind of playing around with, so hopefully you like that. And then also, and that comes out every moon day. And then on Mercury days, I have this one called Celestial News Weekly, and it talks about where the sun and the rest of the visible planets are transiting, what signs may be most affected, and how to work with those energies as pragmatically as possible. So that's also available for you there. But that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.